The late summer heat lingered like a ghost over downtown Atlanta, heavy and unrelenting. The scent of fried food and car exhaust filled the air as people moved quickly, avoiding the gaze of the forgotten. On the cracked sidewalk near Peachtree Street, a girl in a tattered hoodie sat cross-legged, sketching something on a piece of cardboard with a half-broken pencil. Her fingers were rough, her nails chipped, but her lines were sharp, deliberate. She didn't beg. She didn't speak. She just watched. Her name was Nia Carter, 17, homeless since she was 12. Across the street, a sleek black SUV rolled to a slow stop in front of a mirrored building. The back door opened, and a tall man in a crisp grey suit stepped out, followed by a younger assistant pushing a high-end wheelchair. The assistant helped the man sit down with practiced efficiency. Expensive shoes, watch gleaming, his posture straight, proud, but his legs still as stone. Nia's eyes narrowed. The man turned his head slightly, his dark skin glowing under the Georgia sun. Sunglasses covered his eyes, but Nia didn't need to see them to know what was behind them. She'd seen that look before, on war vets, old hustlers, broken men under bridges. It was silence that screamed. She stood slowly, cardboard in hand, walked across the street like the pavement belonged to her. People stared. She didn't care. She stopped 2 feet from the man in the chair. He didn't flinch. Neither did she. "Your legs are lying," she said softly. The assistant blinked. "Excuse me?" Nia tilted her head. "I said his legs are lying. He ain't paralyzed. He just forgot how to trust himself." The billionaire's jaw clenched. He looked straight at her now. No sunglasses could hide the heat rising behind his stoicism. "You don't know me," he said, voice cool, low. Nia shrugged. "Don't need to. I can see it in the way you hold your breath when someone talks about walking. In your shoulders, tight like you still brace for pain. You gave up. That ain't paralysis. That's grief wearing new clothes." The assistant stepped between them, defensive. "That's enough, kid. Walk away." Nia leaned forward, eyes never leaving the man in the chair. "Or maybe—" "You already did." Then she turned, walked away like she hadn't just cracked open a man's armor with a whisper. The crowd that had unknowingly slowed to watch quickly turned back to their routines. Horns honked. A train rumbled nearby, but Marcus DeWitt didn't move, not even a twitch. Yet inside something shifted. He looked down at his hands. The same hands that had once built empires from nothing but ideas and code. The same hands that had been helpless the night everything shattered. Nia disappeared around the corner. The assistant spoke, hesitant. "Sir, are you okay?" Marcus didn't answer. He kept his eyes on the corner where she'd vanished. "Who was that girl?" He murmured to no one. Before we go deeper into this powerful story, make sure you subscribe for more life-changing journeys like this one. You won't want to miss what comes next. As the city roared back to life around him, Marcus sat motionless, but the silence inside him had been broken. And for the first time in 4 years, he wasn't sure if the ground beneath him was still stable, or if maybe, just maybe, his world was beginning to move again. Marcus DeWitt hated mirrors. He hadn't looked into one willingly in nearly 4 years. Yet every day his reflection found him, on the windows of his penthouse, in the shine of polished marble floors, in the pitying glances of strangers who pretended not to stare. This morning, like every other, his assistant Terence wheeled him through the lobby of DeWitt Technologies. The floors gleamed, the air smelled of lemon polish and ambition. Everyone stepped aside, nodded respectfully. No one dared ask how he was. He hated that even more. Terence, a tall man in his 20s with tight locks and calm hands, tapped the elevator panel. "You good, sir?" Marcus nodded, eyes locked forward. "Fine." They rode up 52 stories in silence. The higher they went, the more the city disappeared below them. But Marcus wasn't thinking about Atlanta's skyline. His mind was on a girl with sharp eyes and the audacity to speak the truth. "Your legs are lying." He hadn't heard that voice before, but it stayed with him, crawling under his skin, nesting in the quiet corners of his thoughts. Inside his office, Floor-to-ceiling windows cast golden light across a minimalist space. Everything was symmetrical, controlled, silent. Marcus wheeled himself to the center of the room and stared at a painting on the far wall. It was a piece by a black artist from Brooklyn, bold strokes of red and deep blue, a man walking through fire, untouched. He used to love that painting. Now it felt like mockery. Terence stood by the desk, waiting. "Want me to get started on the project briefs?" "No," Marcus said. "Leave them." Terence hesitated. "You sure?" "I said leave them." Terence nodded, backing out, the door closing softly behind him. Alone, Marcus exhaled slowly. He reached for the control on his chair and shifted slightly, adjusting the angle. His legs sat useless beneath him, dressed in tailored slacks and polished leather shoes. They looked strong, whole, but he couldn't feel a thing. Or so he thought. He opened the side drawer of his desk and pulled out a thin folder, one he hadn't touched in over a year. Inside, medical records, therapist notes, neurological scans, all confirming the same thing. Spinal trauma, incomplete paralysis, no severed cord, no physiological reason why he couldn't walk. Just a block, a wall in the mind, a wound deeper than any X-ray could see. He tossed the folder onto the desk. "You don't know me," he whispered to himself, echoing what he'd told the girl, and yet she'd known something, seen something. He wheeled himself to the window and looked out over Atlanta. Somewhere down there, she was moving through the streets like a shadow. She hadn't asked for anything, not food, not money, just left a truth in his lap like a bomb. Her words kept looping. He clenched the armrests, not in frustration, but in something else. Shame. A part of him resented how deeply he wanted to believe her. He glanced down at his legs again. Could have been asleep, could have been dead. But were they lying? A soft knock broke the silence. Terence poked his head in. "Sorry, Mr. DeWitt. Board call in 10. Marcus didn't respond at first. Then, "Cancel it." Terence blinked. "All of it. All of it." The door shut again. Marcus turned back to the window, the girl's voice ringing clear in his mind. Grief wearing new clothes. He'd worn it like armor, built his empire with it. But now, the weight felt different, like maybe it wasn't holding him up anymore. Maybe it was what kept him down. And for the first time in 4 long years, Marcus DeWitt felt something stir, not in his legs but in his chest. He wasn't sure if it was anger or hope. But it moved. The rain fell soft and steady outside Marcus's penthouse that night, streaking the glass windows in thin silver lines. Inside, the world was quiet, except for the faint hum of city life far below. Marcus sat alone in his study, dim lights casting warm shadows across the dark wood floors. On his lap rested a photo album, old, leather-bound, edges worn with time. He hadn't touched it since the accident. With a hesitant hand, he opened it. The first photo was of him and Isaiah, his younger brother, grinning wide at a family barbecue. They were barefoot, T-shirts stained with mustard, standing in front of their grandmother's house in Detroit, the kind of house that smelled like fried catfish and incense, where laughter echoed through thin walls and old jazz played on the stereo. Isaiah was always the louder one, the bolder one, the one who believed Marcus could do anything. "Are you the brain, I'm the fire," he used to say, throwing an arm around Marcus's shoulder. "Together we unstoppable." Marcus flipped the page. There they were again, dressed in suits, beaming at the opening of their first tech office. 2 kids from the block who'd built an empire out of second-hand computers and pure hustle. The memory hit hard. Then came the last photo. The one taken just a week before the crash. Isaiah smiling on the helipad. Marcus beside him, one hand on the rotor, the other holding coffee. Behind them, skyline, success, the future. And then, nothing. The next memory was a blur of metal, flame, and pain. Marcus remembered the screaming, the smoke, the way Isaiah's hand slipped from his, and then darkness. He closed the album, jaw clenched tight. After the accident, the doctors said he could walk again, but he never did. not because his body refused, but because the guilt did. How could he stand when his brother never would? He wheeled himself to the fireplace and stared into the unlit hearth. Somewhere in the city, a girl with dirt on her jeans and steel in her eyes had looked at him and seen past the empire, past the silence, past the lie. You gave up. She hadn't said it, but he heard it, felt it. He pressed a button on the arm of his chair. A hidden panel opened in the wall, revealing a small safe. Inside, untouched for years, was a stack of Isaiah's journals. Marcus pulled one out. The pages were chaotic. Ideas, sketches, lyrics, dreams. In the margin of one, written in Isaiah's crooked hand, "Pain don't mean you stop. It just mean you carry it different." Marcus read it twice, then a third time. His throat tightened. He remembered the nights growing up, lying on a mattress in their shared room, listening to Isaiah talk about changing the world. Marcus had always been the thinker, the planner. But Isaiah, he was the reason Marcus believed in himself. And when Isaiah died, that belief died too. He stared at the journal in his lap. Maybe the girl saw what he couldn't. Maybe she wasn't just a stranger. Maybe she was right. The rain picked up, tapping harder against the glass. Marcus leaned back, eyes closed. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel numb. He felt everything. Loss, regret, a flicker of something else. Resolve. He whispered to the empty room, "I didn't forget you, Zay. I just stopped looking forward." The fire remained unlit, but deep in his chest something caught a spark. He didn't know what came next, but he knew it started with finding her. Marcus sat alone in the back seat of the SUV, hands folded tightly over his lap. The morning sun slanted through tinted windows, casting gold stripes across his face. Terence drove silently, occasionally glancing through the rear-view mirror, unsure if he should speak. "Run it again," Marcus said suddenly, voice low. Terence nodded and tapped a few buttons on the dashboard screen. The footage rolled, security cam footage from the front of DeWitt Technologies, blurry, wide angle. It showed Marcus being wheeled toward the building, the crowd moving as usual. And then her, Nia Carter. A blur at first, then closer, lean, alert. Her movements purposeful, her mouth forming words that had somehow shaken something loose in Marcus's bones. The assistant stepped between them. Nia turned and walked away. Marcus leaned forward. Pause. Terence paused the frame. Nia's eyes were locked on Marcus's, her chin tilted slightly. There was no fear in her face, no pity either. "Enhance it," Marcus said. Terence zoomed. The image pixelated, but the attitude didn't fade. Even in blurry pixels, Nia looked like someone who'd never backed down from anything. "Facial recognition's running now," Terence added, "but she's not in any public database so far. No school ID, no social, no license, nothing." Marcus nodded slowly. "She's out there. I want her found, but carefully." Terence raised a brow. "Carefully?" "I don't want her scared off," Marcus said. "She's not like other people." "You corner someone like her, you'll never see her again." Terence didn't respond at first, then, "You think she's dangerous?" "No," Marcus said quietly. "I think she's important." They drove in silence down Auburn Avenue, the heart of Black history in Atlanta. Marcus watched the neighborhood blur past, old record shops, murals of Dr. King, kids playing basketball on cracked pavement. It was a world he used to know, one he'd left behind when the boardrooms took over. He wondered if Nia still lived in a place like this, if she trusted anyone, if she'd even believe he wanted to talk. "I want her name," he said, "where she sleeps, who she talks to, but no cops, no pressure." Terence nodded. "Got it." Marcus looked back at the frozen image of Nia on the screen. He didn't understand it, why her voice, her stare, her presence had rattled something he thought long buried, but he couldn't let it go. That night, he couldn't sleep. The city outside pulsed with life, distant sirens echoing through the high-rise glass. He wheeled himself to his desk, opened Isaiah's journal again and found another scribble. Sometimes the truth sound like disrespect. But it'd still be true. He didn't need a therapist to tell him what that meant. Marcus had spent years letting silence speak for him, Polished smiles, closed doors, quiet compliance. But one moment with Nia had undone it all. She hadn't respected his empire. She hadn't bowed to his name, she hadn't blinked. She just told the truth, and now he couldn't unhear it. He wheeled over to the window and stared down at the glowing veins of the city. Somewhere out there, Nia was moving, surviving. Unseen, unheard, until she made herself known. Marcus whispered into the night, "What do you see that I can't?" He didn't expect an answer. But he knew this. Whatever she had seen in him, it wasn't dead. Not yet. And now he needed to see her again, not to prove her wrong, but to find out if maybe she was right. The small cafe on Edgewood Avenue wasn't the kind of place billionaires visited. It had chipped paint on the front door, a bell that jingled with a tired rattle, and tables worn smooth by years of elbows and spilled drinks. But Nia Carter liked it here. The owner, Miss Latoya, let her sit for hours with one coffee if she stayed quiet and didn't scare off paying customers. She sat near the window, hoodie up, sketching again. This time it was the man from the chair. She drew him upright, walking, not smiling, not proud, just free. "You drawing ghosts now?" a voice said behind her. She turned fast, ready to snap back, but it was him. Marcus DeWitt sat in the doorway, his assistant nowhere in sight. Just him, alone in that sleek chair, dressed in a simple black hoodie and jeans. No flash, no armor. Nia didn't speak. He rolled closer, slow, careful not to crowd her. "Mind if I join you?" She looked him up and down. "Thought rich folks didn't drink diner coffee." "I don't," he said. "But I'm not here for coffee," she snorted. "What, you here to sue me for talking crazy outside your building?" "No," Marcus said calmly. "I'm here to ask what you meant." She leaned back, arms crossed. "I said what I meant. You don't even know me." "Didn't need to. I know what stuck looks like. I know what running from yourself feels like." Her voice was flat, but her eyes were sharp. Watching for any sign of pity or manipulation. He didn't give her one. Instead, he placed a small paper cup in front of her. "I brought you something." She looked down. Black coffee, 2 sugars. Just how Miss Latoya made it. Her guard didn't drop, but it shifted. "You watching me?" she asked, not kindly. Marcus shook his head. "I asked someone to find you. I needed to understand how a stranger could look at me for 2 seconds and say what trained doctors, therapists and friends haven't said in 4 years. Nia sipped the coffee, slow. "Maybe they was too scared to tell you the truth." He nodded. "Maybe." They sat in silence for a moment. The sound of the espresso machine, a soft gospel track playing through the speaker, and rain tapping the windows filled the space between them. "You were right," Marcus said, "about the grief, about the fear." Nia didn't respond. "I can't explain it. My legs, they're fine, medically, but I haven't stood since the crash. I tried, failed, then stopped trying." "That's the lie," she said softly. He looked at her. "The lie ain't in your legs, it's in your head. You told yourself not to trust your body because it failed you once, and you believed that mess so hard, your body believed it too." Marcus felt those words land like a punch. "And you?" he asked. "You always this sure of everything?" She smirked, but there was pain in it. "I ain't sure of much. But I know what it's like to wake up every day and have to choose not to give up. Ain't no doctor taught me that. The streets did." Her fingers tapped the table. "You ain't the only one who's paralyzed, Mr. Billionaire. Some of us just can't afford a chair to sit in." That shut him up. After a long pause, he asked, "Where are you staying?" She didn't answer. "I'm not offering charity," he said. "Just a place to sleep safe, just for the night." She studied him, then nodded once. "Just for the night." He didn't smile, neither did she, but something between them, trust maybe, took its first breath. Nia stepped into the mansion like she was walking into enemy territory. Her sneakers, wet from the rain, squeaked against the polished floor. The hallway stretched wide, lined with abstract paintings and soft overhead lighting. Everything smelled like fresh linen and expensive wood polish. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like a showroom, too clean to breathe in. Marcus rolled in behind her, silent. No grand welcome, no make yourself comfortable. Just space, quiet, heavy space. A tall man with glasses and a tight vest appeared from a side hallway. "Mr. DeWitt," he said with a nod. Then his eyes landed on Nia, and the nod slowed. "This is the guest?" Marcus gave a slight nod. "This is Nia." The man cleared his throat. "Chef Elise has prepared a tray. Would you like it served in the lounge?" "I'll take it to the study," Marcus replied. Then to Nia, "You hungry?" She shook her head. "I'm good." He paused. "It's real food." "I said I'm good." The staff member disappeared down the hall, heels clicking with judgment. Marcus led her toward a small room near the back, all dark leather and old jazz records. The walls were lined with books, hardbacks, first editions, untouched. A fireplace sat unlit. The windows showed nothing but black night and the faint glint of the city below. "You can sleep here," he said. "Door locks from the inside. Bathrooms through there." Nia didn't sit. Her arms were still crossed. "You really live like this?" she asked finally. "All this space and nothing real in it?" He glanced around. "I guess I stopped decorating when it didn't matter anymore." She moved to the shelf, scanned the titles: finance, innovation, leadership, tech theory, not a single novel. "You don't read stories?" she asked. "I read code." "That's not the same." "No," he admitted, "it's not." She finally sat, on the edge of a leather armchair, her hands in her hoodie pocket, gaze never leaving him. "You don't talk to nobody here, do you?" "I talk to who I need to." And they talk to you like you're broken glass." That stung more than he let show. "I'm not here to fix you," she said. "You already rich. You already got people calling you sir and cleaning your floors. That ain't my lane." "Then why are you here?" She looked at him long and hard. "Because you ain't dead yet." "And you act like you are." The silence thickened. He broke it. "You want to judge me, go ahead. But you don't know what it's like to lose." "Don't," she cut in. "Don't tell me what I know. You ever bury your mama in a box the size of a couch cushion? You ever sleep under a freeway 'cause your auntie said you too much trouble? You ain't got the monopoly on pain, Mr. DeWitt." He stared at her. Then quietly, "No, I don't." She stood. "I'll take the couch." He nodded. As she turned to go, he said, "You said you weren't here to fix me. So what are you here for?" She paused in the doorway. "Maybe I'm just waiting to see if you can fix yourself." Then she left him alone again in the house full of silent walls. Marcus looked at the fireplace, still cold, still dark. But for the first time in years he thought about lighting it. The sun bled slowly through the east-facing windows as morning crept into the mansion. The air inside was still. Nia stood barefoot in the study, hoodie draped over a chair, staring at a turntable resting beside the shelves. She reached out and gently lowered the needle. The record crackled to life with the dusty hum of old soul, Donny Hathaway's voice rising like smoke. Marcus wheeled into the room, surprised to see her awake. "You like Donny?" She shrugged. "My mom used to play this on Sundays, right after she'd finished braiding my hair. Smelled like shea butter and burning rice." He nodded slowly. "Isaiah loved this record. Played it on repeat whenever he was homesick." A beat passed between them. Nia turned toward him. "You ever dance?" Marcus blinked. "Before the accident?" "No, before you stopped being you." He didn't answer. She walked to the center of the room and began to sway. Nothing dramatic, just small steps, shoulders moving with the beat, hands light. Her eyes closed. "You know what's funny?" she said. "Dancing ain't really about your legs. It's about your rhythm, your memory, your fire." He watched her, unsure whether to feel anger or awe. She opened her eyes. "Try it." "You want me to dance?" "No," she said calmly. "I want you to remember what it felt like to move before fear made you still." Marcus stared at her. Then, without thinking, he adjusted the chair forward and gripped the armrests. "I'm not promising anything. Don't promise, just feel." Donnie's voice wrapped the room in warmth as Marcus focused inward. He closed his eyes. He pictured his grandmother's porch, Isaiah clapping on beat, their cousins laughing, barbecue smoke rising into summer air. He remembered joy, motion, feet stomping on wood planks, Isaiah shouting, "Come on, man, don't act like you ain't got soul." The faintest twitch ran down his right leg. He opened his eyes. Nia didn't say anything, but her gaze locked onto the movement. He tried again. A slow inhale. Focus. Thought. Nothing. "No," she said gently. "Stop thinking. Just feel the song." He let the music guide him. One more breath. Then, his foot shifted. Just a tremor, barely noticeable. But it moved. His hands gripped the chair tighter. "I felt that," he said, voice almost a whisper. Nia nodded once. "So did I." He laughed, surprised at himself. It was short, rough. The kind of laugh that didn't know if it was allowed to exist. "I thought it was gone," he murmured. "Like the part of me that could try." Nia sat on the floor across from him, legs folded beneath her. "Sometimes your body waits for permission, not from doctors, from your own mind." He looked at her. "How do you know this stuff?" "I don't. I listen. To people. To myself. Pain talks if you let it." She leaned back, letting the music fill the air again. Marcus felt something loosening in his chest, a weight shifting, not gone, but lighter. "You know," he said, "this is the first time in years that I felt like my body belongs to me again." "Keep feeling that," Nia said. "Don't let nobody take it." Outside, the world was waking up, cars passing, birds starting to sing, life moving. And inside, for the first time in a long time, Marcus moved too. Even if just by inches, even if just inside. The clinic smelled of rubbing alcohol and recycled air. Fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead as Marcus wheeled himself through the quiet hallway, flanked by a nurse who spoke in clipped professional tones. Nia walked behind them, hands stuffed in her pockets, eyes scanning every detail like she was somewhere she didn't trust. "Doctor." Eland Harper greeted them in a private exam room, his white coat clean and pressed, his locks tied neatly back. A neurologist with the calm demeanor of a man who'd seen more heartbreak than he cared to admit. "Marcus," he said, extending a hand. "It's been a while." Marcus shook it firmly. "Too long." Dr. Harper glanced at Nia, curious. "She's with me," Marcus said. "Her friend?" Nia raised an eyebrow. "Friend, huh?" Marcus smirked. "For now." Dr. Harper gestured toward the chair. "You been feeling anything new?" Marcus hesitated. "Some movement. Small. Like a twitch in my leg. A few times." Dr. Harper's brows rose. "Voluntary or reflexive?" Marcus looked at Nia. She answered for him. "It happened while he was remembering. Music. His brother." "Before the accident." Dr. Harper nodded slowly. "That tracks." Marcus frowned. "You're not surprised?" "I'm surprised it took this long. Physically, your scans have shown potential for years. But trauma's not just about injury. It's about what your brain believes is safe." He adjusted a screen beside the desk, bringing up Marcus's medical file. "Your spinal cord wasn't severed. There's scarring, yes, but it never fully blocked neural signals. You've been in what we call functional paralysis." Marcus leaned back. "So you're saying it's been mental?" "I'm saying your body stopped trusting itself, and your mind agreed." Silence thickened the room. Nia shifted, arms still crossed. "Can it come back?" Dr. Harper looked at her. "It can if the conditions are right. It's not about willpower. It's about unlocking the response through memory, movement, sometimes emotion, usually through trust." He turned to Marcus. "You trusted something. Or someone. Enough to let go of the fear." Marcus glanced at Nia. She didn't smile, but her expression softened just a little. Dr. Harper tapped the tablet. "I'd like to run a few tests." "Muscle reactivity, pressure response, nothing invasive." Marcus nodded. "Let's do it." As the nurse stepped in with electrodes and equipment, Nia sat off to the side, watching. After a few minutes of quiet testing, Dr. Harper studied the readouts. Your right leg's responding more than it was last year. There's signal activity. Marcus exhaled slowly. Relief, disbelief, both danced on his face. It's not a miracle, Dr. Harper said, but it's real. He packed up the sensors, then looked directly at Nia. You're not a therapist, he said, but you're doing something none of us could. Nia shrugged. I just tell the truth. Loud. He smiled. Keep doing that. After they left the clinic, the afternoon sun hit hard on the pavement. Marcus rolled beside Nia, his face quiet, thoughtful. You good? She asked. He nodded. Better than I've been in 4 years. A pause. Thank you. She didn't answer right away. Then, you still got to do the work. I ain't magic. I know. They kept walking. Well, he rolled. She walked. Side by side through the clinic parking lot. The city buzzed beyond the gates. Nothing had changed. And yet, everything had. The tires crunched against the gravel as the black SUV turned onto a narrow street in West End, one of Atlanta's oldest and proudest neighborhoods. Nia sat in the passenger seat, legs crossed, window half down. Marcus was in the back, watching everything. The cracked sidewalks, the chipped murals, the aunties sweeping porches in house shoes, kids chasing each other with water guns. This ain't Buckhead, Nia said, a grin creeping into her voice. I noticed, Marcus replied. You said you wanted to feel again, she said. This is where feelings live. Terence parked near a basketball court, flanked by a chain-link fence. The rims had no nets, but the court was alive. Music blasted from a nearby speaker. Trap mixed with gospel, somehow both holy and hood. A group of teenagers danced in a tight circle on the pavement, one boy spinning on his hands, the others clapping in rhythm. Get out, Nia said. Marcus hesitated. You want me to roll through this? She opened her door. Nah, I want you to stand. His heart pounded. Here. This is where you used to come from, right? Your brother? Your memories? You want 'em back, you meet 'em here. He looked at Terence in the rearview mirror. Terence just nodded once. Marcus exhaled and opened the door. The pavement was uneven, warm from the sun. A smell of fried fish and motor oil lingered in the air. He grabbed the frame of the door, steadied himself, then placed one foot down. It trembled slightly. Then the other. He didn't try to walk. He just stood. Every muscle in his body tensed as if holding the weight of 4 years. Nia stood nearby, arms folded. One of the kids stopped dancing and turned. Yo, ain't that the dude from the commercials? A few others looked. Whispers spread, but no one came closer. They watched. Marcus stared at the kids, black boys with sharp fades, girls with box braids and gold hoops. They reminded him of his old block in Detroit, of Isaiah, of cookouts and card tables and loud, joyful chaos. And suddenly, something flickered in his leg, a pull, a memory. His foot slid forward, barely an inch, then another. He stumbled, reached for the SUV. Nia stepped forward, catching his arm lightly, steadying without holding. You did that, she said. Not me. He looked at her, breath shaky. I can't believe it, he said. She met his eyes. Start believing, 'cause your body ain't lying no more. The music kept playing. A young girl near the court started clapping again. The others followed. Then one boy shouted, Yo, Mr. Billionaire, you got moves or what? The circle widened, inviting. Marcus looked at them, then at Nia. I'm not ready for that, she grinned. Nobody ever is. They stayed a few minutes longer. Marcus didn't dance, but he didn't sit either. He stood, watched, felt. When they finally left, as the SUV rolled away from the court, Nia glanced over at him. You feel that? He nodded. Yeah, I felt it. And deep in his chest, something that had once been buried under pain, silence, and guilt cracked open. He wasn't just standing. He was starting to return. The front door slammed harder than it needed to. Marcus rolled into the house, jaw tight, hands clenched on the wheels of his chair. He didn't wait for Terence, didn't look back at Nia, who followed a few steps behind, silent. The air in the mansion felt colder than usual. Sterile. The kind of cold that seeps in when warmth has been chased out. "You shouldn't have taken me there," Marcus snapped without turning. Nia raised her eyebrows. "You asked to feel again, I took you to where feelings live." "I didn't ask to be a damn spectacle." "No one was laughing, Marcus. They were watching a man stand up after 4 years. That's power." He wheeled to the study, threw off his jacket and hit the side of the chair harder than necessary. It didn't feel like power. It felt like weakness. "I couldn't walk. I looked pathetic." Nia crossed her arms. "You think standing in front of a bunch of kids from the hood, showing them that scars ain't the end, is pathetic?" He looked at her, eyes hard. "You don't get it." "Say that again," she snapped, stepping closer. "Tell me I don't get what it's like to be watched, judged, picked apart. Tell me I don't know what shame tastes like when you can't hide your broken pieces." The room pulsed with tension. Marcus turned away. "You saw what happened." I froze. I barely moved. "And yet," she said, quieter now, "you moved." He didn't respond. She dropped onto the couch, leaning forward. "What is this really about? The kids? The people? Or the fact that you can't handle the idea that they might see you try and not succeed all the way?" His throat tightened. "I used to command rooms, lead empires. Now I'm barely holding on to the pieces." "You think they care about your empire," she said. "They saw a man who didn't quit. That's leadership, not the glass office, not the suit, that moment." He looked down at his legs. "They felt like they were made of stone," he whispered. "Every step, and I was afraid it would be the last." "Then let it be the last of fear," she said, "not the last of trying." A long silence stretched between them. Then Nia stood. "I'm gonna go," she said. "I can't force you to want this. I brought you truth. But if you ain't ready to live in it, that's on you." He looked up, alarm flickering in his eyes. "You're leaving." "I gave you what I had," she said. "You want to sit in this palace of ghosts, that's your choice. But I'm not staying just to watch you sink back into it." Marcus stood halfway from the chair. Instinct, panic, pride. But his knees wobbled. He dropped back down. Nia watched him. Then quietly placed a folded piece of paper on the table. "If you stand again, don't stand for me," she said. "Stand for you." She walked out without waiting for a reply. The house swallowed her absence. Marcus stared at the note, but didn't open it. Not yet. All he could hear was the echo of his brother's voice years ago. "We don't build from comfort, Marcus. We build from the fire." And right now all he could feel was the heat. The mansion was silent, but Marcus's chest was not. His breathing was heavy, uneven, like he had been running though he hadn't left his chair. The paper Nia had left sat on the table, folded neat, its edges sharp as if it carried more weight than its size should allow. He reached for it, hands trembling slightly. He unfolded the page. In small, jagged handwriting it read, "If you stand, don't stand for me, stand for you." His throat tightened. The words stung because they were true. He had wanted to prove something to her, maybe even to the world, but he hadn't thought about proving it to himself. He set the note down carefully, then wheeled toward his study. On the shelf, Isaiah's journals waited like a choir of ghosts. He pulled one down, flipped through pages until a sentence snagged him. "The only way through the fire is with your own 2 feet." Marcus exhaled sharply. He wheeled back, positioned himself in the middle of the room and placed both hands on the armrests. The silence pressed in. He closed his eyes. Felt the pressure in his chest, the fear rising like floodwater. Every failure from the past years replayed, the nights of collapsing, the nurses telling him to stop trying, the pity in people's eyes, the shame. "Not this time," he whispered. He pressed down, arms straining. His body rose unsteady, knees quivering. For a second, he hovered halfway up, caught between the man he was and the man he wanted to be. Then his legs buckled. He crashed down into the chair. A sharp pain shot through his hip. The air left his lungs in a ragged gasp. Sweat poured down his forehead. For a long moment he just sat there staring at the ground. "You're still failing," his inner voice hissed. "You'll never walk again." But then another voice cut through, Isaiah's, loud, alive in his memory. "Pain don't mean stop. It just means you carry it different. Marcus gritted his teeth. He pressed down again, muscles screaming. His arms trembled, his legs shook like brittle branches, but he rose once more. Higher this time. The weight pressed into his knees. His thighs burned, as if waking from years of sleep. One step, his mind begged. He leaned forward, forced his right leg out. It moved. His foot scraped against the polished floor. Just an inch, but an inch more than yesterday. He almost fell again, grabbing the back of the chair for balance, but he didn't collapse fully. He caught himself upright, unsteady, alive. His chest heaved. Sweat streaked down his face, but his eyes burned with something he hadn't felt in years. Fury, hope, both wrapped together. He let out a broken laugh. "You were right, Nia. Damn it. You were right." He stood there, knees trembling, for what felt like forever but was only seconds. Then slowly he lowered himself back into the chair, not in defeat this time, but in control. His hands shook as he reached for Isaiah's journal again. He flipped to a blank page. For the first time since the accident, he picked up a pen and began to write. "Today I stood. Tomorrow I walk." The words weren't perfect. His handwriting shook. But the page wasn't empty anymore, neither was he. Morning spilled across the city like honey, soft and golden. In the quiet of his mansion, Marcus stood again. This time not by accident, not by chance. He pressed down with steady hands, pulled himself upright, and stayed there longer than before. His legs wobbled, but they held. The air tasted different, lighter, sharper, like he was breathing in freedom he'd forgotten existed. Terence found him in the study, sweat soaking his shirt, both hands gripping the desk for balance. "Sir," he shouted, rushing forward. Marcus shook his head, voice steady, though his body trembled. "Don't. I've got it." Terence froze, wide-eyed. "You're standing." "I am," Marcus said, "and I'm not sitting back down." For a few seconds more, he held his ground. Then carefully he eased back into the chair, not defeated, measured. He let the silence confirm what words couldn't. He was moving forward. Later that day, Marcus rolled through the city with no set destination. He told Terence to keep driving. They passed neighborhoods he hadn't seen in years, South Atlanta, College Park, Mechanicsville. Places he once avoided because they reminded him too much of what he'd lost. But now he looked out the window and felt something stirring that wasn't guilt. It was hunger. They pulled up to an old brick building, its windows broken, its walls covered in graffiti. Marcus stared at it for a long time. "Stop here," Terence frowned. "Here?" "It's abandoned." Marcus wheeled closer, eyes tracing the faded paint. The building had once been a community center. He remembered Isaiah talking about places like this, safe spaces for kids to play, study, dream. Spaces that had vanished when funding disappeared. Marcus touched the cold brick with his hand. "This is it." "Sir?" Terence asked. "This is where we start." That night, Marcus sat at his desk drafting plans. Not business blueprints, not another tech rollout, but a vision. A center that wasn't just about therapy or medicine, it was about truth. A place where kids from neighborhoods like his could come not just to heal, but to believe. Where movement wasn't measured only in muscles, but in hope. He wrote the name at the top of the page, Truth Moves. Days blurred into weeks. Architects visited, contractors surveyed. Marcus, still working through his steps, insisted on being present at every meeting. He practiced walking with braces, short distances at first, each movement stiff but real. Every inch forward felt like reclaiming a piece of himself, but even as he built, a gap remained. The spark that had lit this fire, the girl who had told him his legs were lying, was gone. He sent Terence to search shelters, schools, even Miss Latoya's cafe. Nothing. Nia had vanished into the folds of the city. One night, Marcus sat on his balcony, overlooking Atlanta's skyline. The air was thick with summer heat, cicadas buzzing in the trees below. He whispered into the night, as if she could hear him. "You didn't just tell me the truth, you gave me a reason to stand. Wherever you are, I hope you're still standing too." The next morning, the first hammer fell against the walls of the old building. Dust filled the air. Marcus stood nearby, unsteady but upright, watching the rebirth of something greater than himself. For the first time in years, the future didn't look like a punishment. It looked like possibility. And though Nia wasn't there, her voice still echoed in his mind. Don't let nobody take it. He wouldn't. Not now. Not ever again. The grand opening was still weeks away, but Truth Moves already had walls that breathed hope. Fresh paint covered the bricks, bright colors chosen by local artists. Marcus stood in the middle of the gutted hall, leaning on a cane, sweat dripping down his forehead. Every step he took inside that space felt like stitching his past back together. Still, a hollow space lingered where Nia's presence should have been. He searched everywhere. Donations to shelters came with questions attached, but no one had seen her. The cafe on Edgewood hadn't spotted her in months. Even Terence, efficient in everything he did, returned empty-handed. Marcus told himself it was fine, that the work was bigger than one person. But deep down, he knew the truth. She was the missing piece. One humid evening, he left the construction site and told Terence to drive without a plan. The SUV rolled past schools letting out, kids dragging backpacks, parents calling them home. That's when Marcus saw it. A brick wall splashed with fresh graffiti, alive with color, full of movement. Letters that bent and curved into shapes that looked like freedom itself. And there she was, Nia, a spray can in one hand, her hoodie tied around her waist, hair braided tight. A small crowd of children gathered around her, laughing, pointing, asking questions. She showed one boy how to hold the can steady, her tone patient but firm. Marcus's chest tightened. He stepped out of the SUV with his cane, moving slowly but upright. The sound of the cane tapping pavement made a few heads turn. The kids froze, their eyes widening as they recognized him, not from billboards, not from commercials, but from the whispers of the city. The man who used to be in the chair. Nia turned last. Her eyes landed on him, and for a moment all sound drained from the block. He walked closer, each step careful but deliberate. When he stopped in front of her, he didn't speak. Neither did she. Finally, Nia broke the silence. So the legs finally started telling the truth. Marcus let out a laugh, low, genuine. Turns out you were right. They were lying. I just needed someone stubborn enough to call it out. The kids around them whispered, wide-eyed. One little girl tugged at Nia's shirt. Miss Nia, you know him. Nia smiled faintly, though her eyes glistened. Yeah. I know him. Marcus extended his hand, fingers trembling slightly, not from weakness but from the weight of the moment. I came to ask if you'd come back, not to help me, to help them. He gestured at the children, their faces glowing with curiosity, hope, hunger. I'm opening a center, he continued, a place for movement, art, music, therapy. A place where kids like us don't get told what they can't do, where they get to prove what they can, and I can't do it without you. Nia looked at him for a long time. Her guard was still there, but thinner now, cracked by the sight of him standing. She glanced at the kids, then back at Marcus. You sure you're ready for me on your team? She asked. I don't exactly play polite. I don't need polite, Marcus said. I need the truth, and that's your gift. The silence stretched once more, heavy with choice. Finally, Nia reached out and took his hand, firm, steady. The children erupted in cheers. The block seemed to vibrate with it. Marcus felt something stronger than balance in that moment. He felt foundation, not just for him, for them. For her, for all of it. The smell of fresh paint still clung to the walls of the new building, but the space no longer felt empty. Children's laughter echoed through the halls, sneakers squeaking against the gym floor. Music pulsed faintly from one of the rooms, where a group of teens practiced dance steps, their movements shaky but filled with energy. The old community center had been reborn, and its name was stitched proudly across a banner that hung at the entrance. Truth Moves. Marcus walked through the main corridor with his cane, his steps slow but steady. Every person he passed nodded with recognition, not the stiff nods of boardrooms, but the kind that came with respect rooted in something real. He could feel it. This place wasn't about him. It was about them. Nia was already busy, her hoodie sleeves rolled up, crouched beside a group of kids gathered around a blank wall. She handed them spray cans and explained the basics of tagging with control, not chaos. "Your story belongs here," she told them. "Not the street corner where folks ignore it, right here on these walls." A boy frowned. "Ain't nobody gonna paint over it?" "Not here," Nia said firmly. "This wall's yours." Marcus watched her with a quiet pride. She belonged here in a way he never fully could. She moved like someone who had always carried the weight of proving herself, and now she was showing kids how to turn that weight into color, sound, and truth. Later they gathered in the main hall. A local choir rehearsed on one side, their voices rising, filling the rafters. On the other, a young physical therapist helped a boy with braces on his legs take slow, determined steps. The air buzzed with possibility. "This place," Marcus said, leaning closer to Nia, "it's louder than I imagined." She smirked. "Good. Silence kills more people than bullets." "These kids don't need quiet. They need to hear themselves." He nodded, letting her words settle. One of the younger girls, no more than 8, tugged on Marcus's sleeve. "Mr. DeWitt, you really couldn't walk before?" Marcus knelt slowly, steadying himself with the cane. "For a long time I thought I couldn't, but the truth is, I was afraid to try." Her eyes widened. "And now you can?" He smiled. "Now I believe I can. That's the first step." The girl grinned, then ran back to her friends, her laughter ringing like a bell. Nia crossed her arms. "You keep telling them the truth like that, they gon' start telling it back to you." "Then I'll deserve it," he said softly. As the day stretched on, parents arrived, watching their kids dance, paint, and sing. For some, it was the first time they had seen their children lit up by joy instead of weighed down by struggle. Marcus gave short tours, showing families the therapy rooms, the art studios, the outdoor court. Nia floated between groups, commanding attention with her sharp honesty. Together they anchored the space, not as saviors, but as survivors who had decided to stand again. When the last of the families left and the building quieted, Marcus and Nia stood in the center of the hall. The smell of sweat, paint, and food lingered, but the silence felt warm this time. Alive. "You know this ain't just a building," Nia said. "It's a promise. You ready to keep it?" Marcus leaned on his cane, eyes steady. "I didn't stand just to sit back down. We keep it." "Together?" Nia gave a rare smile. Not wide, not flashy, but real. "Then let's keep moving." The hall was full. Families crowded shoulder to shoulder, the smell of soul food from the catering tables drifting through the air. Laughter bounced off the walls, mixing with the hum of conversation. On the stage stood a microphone, waiting. Behind it, a banner stretched wide, painted by the children, bold letters splashed in every color. "Truth moves." Marcus sat in the front row, cane resting against his leg. His palms were damp. He had spoken in front of thousands before, but this was different. This wasn't about quarterly earnings or innovation pitches. This was about standing, not just on the stage, but in truth. Terence leaned down. "You ready?" Marcus gave a tight nod. More than ever. When his name was called, the applause came loud, raw, unpolished. People weren't clapping for a billionaire. They were clapping for a man who had refused to stay down. He pushed himself up slowly, gripping the cane, legs trembling but holding. Step by step he walked to the stage. The sound swelled. Some people rose to their feet. Others shouted encouragement. "Go on, brother. Stand tall. You got this." He reached the mic. For a moment, he just stood there, looking out at faces, young and old, hopeful and tired, familiar and new. His chest ached with emotion. "I used to believe standing was something you did without thinking," he began. "I lost that belief the night my brother died. For 4 years I told myself my body couldn't move, but the truth is I didn't want to, because moving meant living, and living meant facing the pain." The crowd was silent now, every eye locked on him. But then, someone told me something I'll never forget. He looked toward Nia, who leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching him with quiet pride. "Your legs are lying," she said. And she was right. They weren't broken. I was. A murmur rippled through the hall. I stand here not because of money or medicine or miracles. I stand here because I chose to stop believing the lie, because I let the truth move me. And that truth is simple. Pain does not mean the end. It just means we carry it different. Applause burst again, but Marcus lifted a hand for quiet. This place Truth Moves isn't about me. It's about you, about your kids, about the people who've been told they can't, who've been convinced they're stuck, who've been silenced by fear. Here, we will remind them, you are not broken. You are waiting to rise. Cheers filled the air now, unstoppable. Marcus felt tears sting his eyes, but he didn't hide them. He gripped the mic tighter. So I'll say this to every child, every parent, every dreamer who walks through these doors. If you fall, fall forward. If you stumble, stumble toward tomorrow. And when you stand, don't just stand. Walk. Keep walking. The hall erupted. Music swelled as the choir rose and sang behind him, voices lifting the message higher. Children ran to the front, clapping, laughing, pulling their parents to join. The building itself seemed alive, vibrating with joy. Nia made her way through the crowd and stopped at the edge of the stage. She didn't clap. She just gave him a nod. The kind of nod that meant you did it. The kind of nod that meant we did it. Marcus stepped down from the stage, walking carefully but proudly. He joined her at the center of the hall as people swarmed around them, voices rising, lives shifting. For the first time in years, he didn't feel trapped by walls or shadows. He felt surrounded by movement, by truth. And he knew this was only the beginning. Before you leave, make sure to subscribe for more powerful journeys like this one. And don't forget, click the next video on your screen to keep walking with us.